che abbiamo. Ovviamente il primo posto che numericamente impatta sono gli Stati Uniti d'America. Ho chiesto un po' alle grandi associazioni, ma chi potrebbe... Tutti mi hanno fatto un nome, il professore Cipolla. Professore Cipolla. E allora io ho l'onore di ospitare e di dare la parola qui in quest'aula, in questo evento, a professore Gaetano Cipolla. Ci racconti.
Mi scuso innanzitutto di parlare che il mio intervento sarà in inglese. La mia idea era in effetti di parlare a gente che magari non aveva la capacità di parlare a gente che non appartiene alla parrocchia, diciamolo così, e quindi ho pensato di parlare in inglese. Mi scuso per chi non capisce, però c'è la traduzione, quindi non c'è problema. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm grateful and honored for the opportunity to address this distinguished assembly, and I extend my appreciation to the Honorable Ignazio Corrao and his team for organizing this event that will shine a light on Sicilian language and culture, subjects that have been central to my life for over 3 decades. My activities in this area have earned me the affectionate title of professional Sicilian, as bestowed upon me by one of my Spanish colleagues at St. John's University. My academic path, however, initially led me in a different direction before turning my attention to Sicilian poetry. I was interested in reading Italian literature through Jungian psychology. My doctoral dissertation, to provide some context, was entitled The Archetype of the Labyrinth and Its Manifestations in Petrarch. Despite my Sicilian roots, having been born in Francavilla di Sicilia near Taormina, and having completed the magistrale before emigrating to the United States, my exposure to poetry written in the Sicilian language was practically zero. Yet I was a native speaker of Sicilian, as most people of my age were at the time. We learned Italian as a second language in school. The spark that ignited my passion for the Sicilian language and culture occurred when I was asked to recite a couple of Sicilian poems at an event dedicated to Sicilian poetry at NYU, my alma mater. I chose Giovanni Meli's poem, L'Occhi, famously translated into German by Wolfgang Goethe. The poem began with these lines: Occhiuzzi niuri, sittagliati, faciti cadri, casi eccitati. The first line, Occhiuzzi niuri, reached deep into my soul. Occhiucci neri in Italian did not have the same effect. Why? Because Occhiuzzi niuri rekindled childhood memories when Sicilian was the language I learned at my mother's lap, a language of the heart. It brought back vivid images and emotions that had lain dormant in my subconscious. It may be worth mentioning that my mother affectionately called me Tanuzzo, which perhaps contributed to this deep connection. Later, when translating the poetry of Antonio Veneziano, the greatest Sicilian poet of the Renaissance, who wrote exclusively in Sicilian because he did not want to be a parrot mouthing other people's words, I understood the sentiment more profoundly. He eloquently articulated his choice, stating, and I'm quoting, "A great emotion cannot be better expressed than in the mother's language. Profound poetry, crafted in the language of the heart, possesses a transformative power akin to the melodies of Orpheus, capable of stirring the depths of the human soul, of moving trees and even stones. I would like to illustrate this transformative power with a true story. In 1995, I was honored with the Trinacria d'Argento award by an organization based in London, recognizing my dedication to preserving the language and culture of Sicily. The ceremony convened 700 Sicilians in a hotel room, ballroom. As is the case when so many Sicilians gather, conversations flowed without restraint, creating a cacophony that made it impossible to hear the important speakers that had been invited to the event, like the Archbishop of Palermo and the renowned movie director Franco Zeffirelli, who struggled to have their voices heard. Zeffirelli was completely upset and offended and walked off the stage. I was slated to speak next, and anxiety washed over me. If such important people were practically ignored, what hope did I have? The prospect of disaster loomed. But when I finally was introduced, I improvised a form of captatio benevolentiae and said, I was delighted to be among to be among Sicilians, my favorite people. This remark garnered some attention, allowing me to begin Lingua e Dialetto by Ignazio Buttita, which, by the way, that poem was published in the first issue of Arba Sicula, which is my journal. So I started reciting in Sicilian. Un popolo, mettitelo a catina, spugliatelo, attuppatici a bucca, e ancora libero. Miraculously, the chatter began to subside. Encouraged, I continued with the second stanza. Levateci il passaporto, scusate, levateci il travaglio, il passaporto, a tavola un mancia, un letto un dorme, e ancora ricco. The noisy ballroom was more quiet now, and by the next stanza, un popolo diventa povero e servo quando ci arrobbano a lingua, addutata di pace, è perso per sempre. You could hear a pin drop in that ballroom. I recited the entire poem to an audience whose disposition had been miraculously transformed. I attribute this shift not to my oratory skills, but rather to the profound power of the Sicilian language. A language that, if you are Sicilian, reaches deep into your core, establishing an immediate emotional connection. The discovery of the inherent power of Sicilian poetry marked a pivotal moment in my life. This revelation occurred as I grappled with the identity crisis that all immigrants face. I could not identify myself with the image of Sicilians portrayed by the American media, nor could I wholly embrace my new American identity. I felt deracinated. Who was I? I experienced a state well described by my friend Joseph Tusiani, great poet, in his poem, The Song of the Bicentennial, when he exclaimed, "Am I a man or two strange halves of one. The return to my roots began when I fully embraced my Sicilitude, which meant the Sicilian language. I began to translate the works of Giovanni Meli, L'origine dell'uomo, Don Quixote e Sancho Panza, moral fables, and the lyric poems. Meli speaks to the world with my American voice, as do most of the important poets, too numerous to mention here, who have written in Sicilian that I have translated. My involvement with Arba Sicula began in 1987 as editor and president of the association, committing myself to reclaim our Sicilian heritage, correcting the stereotypes, and presenting a more authentic portrayal of Sicilian, whose journey of integration into American society had been not easy and certainly painless. My mission extended to educating not only Americans, but also Sicilian Americans, many of whom arrived on American shores impoverished and illiterate, knowing little about the island's history and its contribution to Western civilization. We needed to create a fact-based information system to counter misconceptions, prejudices, and stereotypes commonly embraced by the media. Two examples suffice. Most people in the US believe wrongly that Sicilian is a corruption of Italian, and that it is an oral language that cannot be written. Through Arba Sicula and my Legas, the publishing company, I have sought to become a bridge between Italy and America, and particularly focusing on Sicily. We have created a library, about 150 books, dealing with the Sicilian language and culture. I founded Poets of Arba Sicula, a series of bilingual Sicilian English volumes, modern and ancient poets. The poetry of Ignazio Corrao, by the way, I brought a whole bunch of books that you can look at over there, was number 20 in the list. The second series, called Sicilian Studies, has already 30 volumes in print. Siciliana, Studies on the Sicilian Ethics, and my Learn Sicilian, Paramolo Siciliano, and Learn Sicilian too. Two textbooks, finisco. Two textbooks used to teach the language in America. And it is being used in New York, in Buffalo, New Orleans, and Philadelphia. An interactive pronunciation guide. Our members have created English Sicilian dictionaries, an electronic Sicilian translator, and other tools. Arthur Dieli, one of our members, has translated the 15,000 proverbs collected by Giuseppe Pitre. Is my time up? I'll just end with the idea, I invite you to just look at the books that we have produced, which is, ve lo dico in italiano, ho portato molti libri che sono esposti lì sul tavolo e sono soltanto le copie elettroniche, quelle sono tutti libri pubblicati da me nella casa editrice Legas. Grazie per l'attenzione.
Thank you.